Hello and welcome back to another episode of Greenshift with BusinessLine. The government is keen that India uses more and more of made in India solar cells and modules. The context to today's conversation is ALMM 2 or the phase 2 of the approved list of models and manufacturers. This has just come into force. What are its implications? More importantly, how much are we losing out commercially by making stuff ourselves instead of importing? To develop on these issues, we have with us today Consulting Editor with BusinessLine, Mr. M Ramesh.
Hi, Bharat.
Hi, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bharat.
Ramesh, to begin with,
Yeah.
expand a bit on this ALMM2 for our viewers.
Well, as the name suggests, ALMM or approved list of models and manufacturers means it is a list of eligible suppliers. That is, if you are a manufacturer, you will have to apply to get into that list, and then for every model of the product that you bring in, you once again have to get it approved. You have to be in the list. Both your name will have to be in the list and your models will also have to be in the list in order to be able to sell in the Indian market. So that is ALMM. It's, by the way, not a new concept. It has been there for the wind industry, for all the wind turbines manufacturers would have to get into the ALMM first before selling them commercially in India. It's been an old concept, but now it has been brought for solar. Now means, about 2 years back, 3 years back.
Again, I'm going to remain a step back before we get to the gist of the scheme itself. For the sake of the viewers, again, can you explain exactly what these cells and modules are and do?
Well, you see, yes, thank you very much for this question, because it's very essential to understand the whole value chain of solar module manufacturer. Solar modules are what you see everywhere. The blue looking things on rooftops, on solar plants and so on. Those are modules. They are made with cells. They are an assembly of cells. Of course, there are other things also. Essentially, modules are made with cells. And the cells are made with wafers. Wafers come by slicing ingots. You make ingots and then slice them into very, very thin, puppered, thick slices. They are called wafers. Ingots come from polysilicon. Actually, ingots come from polycrystalline or monocrystalline silicon, which in turn comes from polysilicon, which basically comes from sand. So, to come back from the other direction, you have sand, you have silicon, you have polysilicon from that, and from polysilicon you make polycrystalline silicon, or from polycrystalline silicon you make monocrystalline silicon. You make ingots of them, and then you slice the ingots into wafers, and then you etch silver lines like wires to conduct electricity, and they are cells, and then you assemble the cells and make modules. Now this is very important because you go deeper and deeper into value chain when you go backward integration. ALMM 1 applied for modules. It came into force in 2024. Now June 1st, 2026, ALMM 2 came into force, which was for cells. So one step backward in the value chain. There is going to be an ALMM 3, which is expected to come into force on the 1st of June 2028. It will then apply to ingots and wafers together. So what it means is, when ALMM 1 came into force, modules produced in India, ALMM 2, modules made with domestically made cells, ALMM 3, cells made with domestically made in India ingots and wafers. So the government wants to push manufacturing, wants to engender a manufacturing ecosystem in India, and the instrument that they have used for that is ALMM.
So does that mean that we ought not to be importing any solar product?
No.
Across
No, it does not mean that. It is essential to note that this ALMM, that is mandatory use of made in India products, applies to government projects, projects of government companies, and all government supported projects like PM Surya Ghar Muft Bijli Yojana, which is the subsidy scheme for rooftop, PM Kusum for farm solar, and so on. So all the government companies, government aided, government supported projects are mandated to use local ALMM products. That's what it means. I mean, it does not mean that you cannot at all import. You can if you want, but if you are not in any of these schemes, you can. If you want to put up a rooftop project and you don't want to avail yourself of any government subsidies, you can use a China-made product. It's not a problem.
Okay, so far you've stuck to facts, you've been explanatory, so I'm trying to go here and provoke you into expressing an opinion. So it is a very good idea to, make sure that manufacturers make in India and buy their products?
Well, that's exactly what we want to discuss today. Well, yes and no. In a way, it is a good idea because what the government is trying to do is to have a complete solar manufacturing ecosystem brought into India, which was completely absent maybe 10 years ago or 15 years ago. That means local economic value addition, which means employment and so on. So in that way, it is good. You also have to weigh it against the price that you pay for this.
So I'm surprised that you seem to be having a yes and no sort of answer to this, because I understand the benefits of this, because you're weaning yourself away from China, you're setting up an ecosystem within India, jobs will be created, economic value add will happen. What could be the argument against?
Yes, the argument against this could be, it is possible to argue, I'm saying, it could be, is the price that we are paying for all this worth it or not? And by the way, what is the price? The price is the sacrifice in savings that we would have made if we continue to import from China. And why is that so? It is because Chinese products are a lot cheaper than made in India products, even if these made in India products are government subsidized. The products that are imported from China were always a lot cheaper than made in India products. They continue to be so even after the government subsidizing the domestic manufacturers.
Oh, even after subsidy? Okay.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
It is.
Okay.
And in the market, we find that the differential per watt, what is that unit, is something like today 10 rupees. That is, if you use a China-made module, you would have paid 10 rupees lesser for that. Which means for every watt of capacity, you are losing 10 rupees. I mean, losing in the sense notionally, not exactly losing. That much you could have.
Opportunity to have saved 10 rupees per watt.
Yes. Now, here, I want to take you to a recent report of CRISIL, which said that in the current year, India could see solar installations of something like 60 to 65 gigawatts. Now, last year it was about 45 gigawatts. CRISIL said half of it could be modules made by Indian manufacturers, locally made manufacturers, which means that about 30 gigawatts of capacity will come with locally made modules, cells and modules, which means if you do the math, you end up with something like 30,000 crores.
Oh, starting off from the 10 rupees per watt.
Yes, 10 rupees per watt.
Okay.
That is, if you imported, if all the 60 gigawatts came only from Chinese modules, because we hardly import anything from any other country, then you, as a country, you would have saved something like 30,000 crores. And this is for the current year, by the way. And next year, the installations will be more. So we would have sacrificed even more on this count. And as you go deeper in value chain, you're actually losing more.
You mean more and more backward integration,
the backward
right?
integration.
Towards.
So if you, at the module level, you would have lost so much. When you make cells also in India, you lose a little more. Okay. When you make ingots and wafers also in India, you lose even more. So going forward, 30,000 crores that we would have saved if we had imported from China, this number will grow. It will probably be 60,000 crores, maybe 1 lakh over a period of time. If you look at it over a 10-year time frame, the number would into several lakhs of crores. And the question is it worth it? Is it too high a price that we are paying, or is it okay?
Actually, I'm going to step away from the focus on India now. It's always intrigued me across sectors, but in today's context here for the solar sector, how is China able to provide components for the solar sector at such low cost? How come they are able to do it and nobody else is?
That's a very interesting question. I think the answer is that China is aided by the confluence of 3 or 4 factors. One is that the Chinese manufacturers are heavily subsidized. No, the subsidy does not show up really as government subsidy. The subsidies come in the form of interest rates that are lesser than market rates. The subsidies that come in the form of loans given by government banks that you really, in practical terms, don't have to return. That is one reason. The other reason is scale. No, China has a very, very, very large manufacturing. I mean, still talking of solar only, solar manufacturing industry. Chinese capacity is something like 1,200 gigawatts of modules per year. To put it in perspective, India has something a little less than 200 gigawatts, 6 times bigger than us, and growing. So they have the advantage of scale. And third, and perhaps the most missed factor here, is that the Chinese seem to be willing to take losses. Because there was a Reuters report recently, it said that in the year 2024, the Chinese solar manufacturing industry sustained cumulative losses of something like $60 billion. It seems that the Chinese are willing to hurt themselves in order to get a stranglehold over the global markets. So they are willing to take losses. They seem to have an ability to sustain losses. They are subsidized and they have the advantage of scale. With all these things, they're able to bring the prices down consistently. You know, interestingly, when I started covering this sector back in 2010, the sector was just opening up in India. I remember very well that a module used to cost something like $1.20 per watt. That was just as I started covering in 2009, 2010. In a matter of months, it came to $1. Then it came to 90 and 85 cents. People were saying, look, ridiculous, you know, it has come so low, it can't go any further down. Then it came to 60. Then people started saying, only this much and only thus far, and it can't go below. Lo and behold, it came to 40, 42. I remember when it was something like 43 cents, Mr. Pashupati Gopalan, who used to head Sun Edison, won a bid with this calculation, you know, 42 cents. He was buying his modules from, the company was called Canadian Solar, but it was actually a Chinese-owned company. His bid was reckoned on the basis of 43 or 42 cents a watt. You know, he was roundly criticized in the industry. How could you assume such a low price? And then it came to 30, 32, 20, 20, and it has now come down to something like 9 or 10.
Scale?
Back then, nobody would have thought. I'm talking of cents, US dollar cents.
Got it. So the reason is scale.
The reason is all these three, the confluence of these 3 factors: scale, subsidy, hidden subsidy, overt and covert subsidies, and the ability to sustain losses. You know, so many companies about, again, there was a report by Reuters fairly recently which said something like 40 or 50 Chinese solar companies have closed down. They have gone bankrupt, closed down. And companies together have laid off something like 80, 85, 87,000 workers. So they are able to, they are willing and able to take that hit.
For sheer market share.
So it is not, as somebody I think from Premier Energies was talking to me recently. Premier Energies is a very large solar module manufacturer company in India. He was saying that you simply can't beat the Chinese because they are not quite market players. They have all these hidden advantages. To answer your question, that is why the Chinese are able to supply at such low prices.
Ramesh, I'll bring the focus of this conversation back to the domestic sector.
Yeah.
You seem to suggest that over a period of time, we would lose the opportunity to save anywhere between rupees 3 and 5 lakh crore over a period of time if we...
I mean, those are very broad numbers.
I understand.
That numbers could be even bigger than that.
If we insisted on manufacturing locally and...
Because the government is, don't forget, the government is also paying a subsidy to manufacturers. You take the subsidy, you take what we could have, you know, I mean, if our installations go faster, the saving, the opportunity lost could be even bigger.
Higher. So that sounds like an astounding quantum of money.
It is.
But just to play the devil's advocate, we also see a lot of value add in this sector if we domestically manufacture. There is job creation and so on.
Yes.
So your views on that?
Oh yes, you see, that's the rationale behind this whole ALMM scheme. And it is a very sound economic rationale. You want to have economic value addition happening in India. You want to have jobs created. And jobs are being created. There's absolutely no doubt about it. In fact, the other day, the gentleman from Goldie Solar was telling me that his company employed 15,000 people. And today there are so many companies announcing projects in modules and cells and further down into ingots and wafers. Going forward, there will be a lot of economic value addition and there will be employment, job created. All this definitely are positives here, which is why this thing has been brought up. And there are other advantages too. Don't forget there are geopolitical advantages. The argument in favor of ALMM is that you are weaning yourself away from China. So why do you have to be dependent on another country? We have had a bad experience in oil. That's also a very sound argument, although it's a little dicey, it's tricky here because you really can't, in this industry, can't completely get away from China because ultimately you at least have to import polysilicon from them and certainly the machinery for all these manufacturers. You can import the machinery from other countries also, but the Chinese are the cheapest, the best. So everybody imports only Chinese machinery. You still have to depend on China for the machinery. You will have to be dependent on China for polysilicon. Now you could say that we can manufacture polysilicon ourselves here. Technology is no big deal. You can manufacture, but it's a very capital intensive industry. They already have the advantage of scale. We are starting afresh. They have other advantages such as electricity prices. So with our electricity prices, our interest costs, with our capital costs, and with not such a big scale, if you start manufacturing polysilicon here, you will once again, end up with much higher cost. Than the delta between Indian and Chinese will be much bigger. So you will only continue to import polysilicon at least from China. Even if you made the ingots and wafers here, you will still be getting polysilicon from China and you are getting the machinery from there. So the argument that you are completely weaning yourself away from China, you are becoming completely self-reliant, Atmanirbhar, is not such a sound argument. But the geopolitical advantages do not stop there. Now, you are giving China business by buying. And if you don't do that, it's going to put the Chinese to that extent in some difficulty. Well, it's an advantage. Look at it geopolitically. Who is to suggest what value we should put on that? We don't know. So that's why it is very difficult to come. I'm not going to sit in judgment of what is right, what is wrong here. You cannot for sure pronounce a judgment on this is right, this is wrong. So there is value addition here. There are arguments in favor of continuing LMM and there is a price that is to be paid for it. And we want to leave it at that. What I want to say here is that the country should know what exactly is the opportunity lost. How much, there should be a proper study done by the government or some reputable agency. We should know how much the country is quote unquote losing because we are not buying from China and manufacturing it all by ourselves. We should know that. We should make decisions with data supporting it. That's the whole point of it.
Ramesh, this was awesome and truly insightful, but there's so much
Thank you very
detail
much.
packed. I think we deserve a coffee at least, if not more.
Me too.
So we look forward to having you again on the show. Thank you.
And coffee too.
Likewise.